Hey, welcome to the Aquarium Life. This is Bruce, your professional aquarist, and today I'm going to show you how to do some common repairs on the T11 doser here by Magus. A lot of our equipment is pretty expensive in this hobby, so when something breaks down, it's worth taking a look at it to see if something can be replaced rather than just junking the whole thing and getting a new one. So I'm at a client's house the other day, and they've got this doser on their system, and they were concerned it started making a beeping noise. So we go to investigate here. So that pump would start to go, and then all of a sudden it would stop. And then you can hear the beeping noise. Well, that motor is on its way out. It's binding up. So I'm going to show you how to replace that. Alright, so let's get started taking this apart. We've got our 3 channels here. The first step is you're going to want to remove this headpiece off. It's held on with 2 clips. Sometimes they're a little difficult to get off, but it shouldn't be too bad. You can see that there's 2 clips right to left, and then we also have 2 clips that are up and down. Those 2 clips are what take the whole head assembly apart, so you can get in there to service the tubing and the wheels. I'll show you that here in just a second, if I can get this apart, that is. Kind of difficult to get things apart with my fat fingers there. I think that I've missed my calling to be a hand model, but you can just bear with me. There we go. So there's the wheel that spins. You're going to want to make sure that feels freed up. It's not binding. It's going to be a little difficult to move, but it shouldn't be that hard. You've got your 3 pieces in there, the 3 wheels that spin and pinch the tubing. And then you're going to want to inspect your tubing here. Make sure that there's no leaks, that there's no restrictions in the tubing. This can also cause an issue. Obviously, you're going to want to inspect all this before you run ahead and get a motor. Now, you want to make sure that you're going to keep your warranty intact. If your dosing pump is under warranty, I think it goes without saying. You don't want to break that seal. There's no reason to open it up. And we've got 4 rubber feet here. This is kind of a common thing I see on a lot of pieces of equipment, is they hide the screws under rubber feet like this. So you're just going to peel those off. We can glue them on later. Just a standard Phillips screwdriver there. I'm not really that fast. I'm putting that in fast motion, obviously. I wish I was. And we're going to cut that warranty seal off. We won't be needing that anymore. And this thing is really easy to take apart. It just slides apart there. You've got your top off. And you can see it's really easy to get to those 3 motors. They're wired into a circuit board, and really on this there's only a few pieces that are serviceable or can be replaced. We've got your control panel, your 3 motors, and that other circuit board. So I'm going to end up, I think I'm going to end up replacing all the motors on this just to be safe. This is a really good client. I want to make sure that this dosing pump isn't going to give them any more headaches. I can actually, when I'm spinning that, I can actually feel some resistance from the bearing. Now you can see we've got 2 screws there in the front. That is all that holds the motor in. So we're just going to take those off. Now later in this video, I want to show you a little bit more on how this pump works and how to grease up those that tubing. This is a peristaltic pump. It's a really peristaltic pumps are a really simple, good design for dosing in our aquariums. Got to carefully cut that zip tie off of there. We don't want to cut any of the wires of any motors that we wouldn't want, to be replacing. And there's just a little, really not even a clip holding that in. It can only go in one way. So we just go ahead and pull that off, discard the motor. Now we're going to put our new motor in. Get our bracket back on there. Get that screw lined up. I usually, you want to get the first one in there but not overly tight so you can move that motor around to line up the second screw. Twist that in there. Go ahead and snug it up. It doesn't have to be incredibly tight. You just want that nice and snug so it's not going to come off. And that's it. You got our new motor in. Now these DC motors here, they're on this connector. It'd be really difficult to get it backwards. It just it only faces one way. You'd really have to try to put that in backwards. If you did with a DC motor, it would spin the opposite direction. That would be the only consequence of that, and obviously we don't want that to happen. We want our input to be our input and our output to be our output. Got that in there, matches up with the rest of them. Hopefully you can see that pretty well on the camera. I'm going to go ahead and replace another pump here. We'll do this one in fast motion. You can see those, sometimes those are a little bit of a challenge to get off of there, but get a little pick or a screwdriver to help you get it off. There was a tiny bit of rust on that motor shaft. I believe that what caused this unit to fail was humidity. You can see how clean it is inside. Obviously it hasn't come in contact with any water or anything like that, but there may have been some excess humidity or something like that kind of got into there to cause that motor to fail. Typically I've been pretty happy with these Bubble Magus dosing pumps. I haven't had any issues to speak of other than this. They're fairly easy to program. You can add additional units to them. Pretty straightforward. So I've got all three of our motors replaced there. That lid just kind of lines up in the grooves. Very easy. Flip that over. We're going to put our screws back in. And other than, gluing those pads back on and putting the heads back on, we're done. You can see how easy this was to do. And, you could spend a few $100s on a new unit, or you could spend, in this instance where I did 3 pumps, it was a little bit more expensive, about $120, but, $40 a pump motor, that's not too bad. Now we're gonna take this other head apart here. This one I'm gonna have to get a pick tool in there, kind of help me spread it apart. Part of that is my my fingers, years and years of working on things, my hands are beat up. Obviously careful we don't want to puncture the tubing. Now if you go and you do an internet search for peristaltic silicone, you should be able to come up with some products that are designed specifically to help lubricate that. Help lubricate that tubing. It just makes the whole thing a lot smoother. Gonna pull this out again. The wheels just fall off. They're just they just sit in there. Nothing fancy there. Helps if you put it the right way, of course. And I'm having trouble with it because I'm doing this on camera. So then I'm inspecting this tubing. I'm looking for, like I said, any kind of cracks, any leaks. I'm not seeing any issues with it. But if it does come to the point where you need to replace this tubing, it's very, very easy to replace. I'm going to get those clips set back down in the grooves properly. I'm going to get that back in there, and then getting that, sometimes it takes a couple tries to get the wheels back in there. You want to kind of, you want to make sure you're not pinching the tube at the bottom, that you're getting that in there nice and flat onto the top of the housing. And I found it kind of easier if I spin that by hand a few times. Make sure that it's seated down there properly, our tubing isn't pinched. And we're going to go ahead and put that back on there. I like to line up the grooves at the bottom first. Make sure those are nice and lined up. You should not have to put a lot of pressure on it. If you do, then something's wrong and you need to readjust it. This one's fighting with me a little bit, but we'll get it in there. Double check our wheels there. And when you have this apart, it's pretty easy to see how these things work. Those wheels go through, they pinch the peristaltic tubing, and then that draws the fluid up and around. There is a kind of a triangle shape to this to that motor shaft, so you want to make sure to line that up correctly. And you've got that on there. You'll be able to feel it snap into place, nice and solid. So I'm hoping you got some benefit from this video. I really appreciate you guys watching. I'm trying to add some value to the hobby, show people how to do things they may not have thought about doing or may not be able to do. Any type of equipment that you want to see me do a repair on, let me know. A lot of things can be fixed rather than discarded, and that can save you a lot of money that you could use towards fish, coral, or something else a lot more fun than replacing the same piece of equipment that you've already purchased. Thank you so much for watching. Please follow me on Instagram, that's vital_reef. Please like and subscribe, that helps me out a ton. Again, one more time, thank you so much for your support.